Everybody, good afternoon. Arne Duncan is one of my longest serving cabinet secretaries, and he's been a friend for a lot longer than that. So it's with some regret and sorrow that I've accepted his decision to return to our hometown of Chicago. After more than 6 years of living in Washington, Arne's wonderful wife Karen and their excellent kids, Claire and Ryan, who are also buddies of mine, wanted to move back home. And that's meant, in the interim, a lot of time apart. So I'll be honest, I pushed Arne to stay. Sorry, guys. But I also know from personal experience how hard it is to be away from your family on a sustained basis. So while I will miss Arne deeply, he's more than earned the right to return home. Take a look at what Arne's accomplished over the last 6.5 years. He's one of the longest serving secretaries of education in our history and one of the more consequential. In just a few years, Arne and his team have delivered some incredible results at every stage of the educational experience. More than 30 states have upped their investment in early childhood education. Nearly every state in America has raised standards for teaching and learning and expectations for what our kids can learn. And our high school graduation rate is at an all-time high. We've helped millions more families afford college, and more Americans are graduating from college than ever before. And that's just scratching the surface. Arne's done more to bring our educational system, sometimes kicking and screaming, into the 21st century than anybody else. America's going to be better off for what he has done. It's going to be more competitive and more prosperous. It is going to be more equal and more upwardly mobile. It's a record that I truly believe no other education secretary can match. Arne bleeds this stuff. He cares so much about our kids, and he has been so passionate about this work. And everybody who interacts with him, including people who disagree with him on some issues, never questions the genuineness and heart that he has brought to this job. So I couldn't be prouder of him, and for good measure, Arne also holds the record for most points scored in an NBA All-Star game. And he is my favorite partner in pickup basketball. The smartest player I know, even though he's very slow. And has no hops. He knows it's true. I will say, watching Ryan, by the way, that the son will soon be surpassing the father, because this young man has got game. Now, keep in mind, none of this change has been easy, and we still have a long way to go. One of the things about education is that it doesn't deliver results tomorrow or the next day. This is a decade-long or longer proposition. We plant seeds now, we make changes now, and we watch each successive class benefit from these reforms, and it goes and fits and starts, and we have a decentralized system. That's how our education tradition evolved. So it's not easy, and it's not quick, but we are making progress. And we're not going to stop in these last 15 months. And that's why it's so important, and why I think we're very lucky that even as Arne steps down, we've got an exceptionally talented educator to step in, and that is Dr. John Kim. John is already on Arne's leadership team. He's been an educator all his life, a teacher, a principal, a leader of schools, the New York State's education chief. He's the right man to lead the department. He shares our commitment to preparing every child for success in a more innovative and competitive world. He's got a great team already at the Department of Education, of which I am very, very proud. His family is equally cool and good looking. and he has equally exceptional children. And I know that together we're going to continue to be able to do great things on behalf of our kids. So, Arne and John, I want to wish both of you hearty congratulations and good luck. Now I'm going to let them say a few words, and then I'm just going to make a few remarks before I take some questions from the press. Start with Arne.
I've cried more today than I have in a while, so I'll try not to get up here and cry. I'll start with the president. And when he asked us to come to D.C. and work with him, that was about a 1-minute conversation with my wife. And it wasn't that we wanted to leave Chicago. It wasn't that they necessarily wanted to be our education secretary. I just wanted to be on his team and believe so much in what he was about and what he stood for. And I have to say, 7.5 years later, my admiration is only greater. And it's pretty remarkable. It's important for the folks to know that every hard decision, his only question was, what's the right thing to do for kids? And challenging us and our team to fight for kids every single day. And often that was the hard political decision. And that was never a factor. And his passion and his commitment has been absolutely extraordinary. And for me, it's not the political leadership, it's not the educational leadership, it's the moral leadership. And I just can't tell you, Mr. President, personally, what an unbelievable honor it was just to spend some time. And for those, it's every day you see it, but for folks who watched him last night talking about the horrendous massacre, gun massacre in Oregon, and how preventable these things are, we need that moral leadership, and please keep that fight. To our team, the team you have at the White House, Cecilia and Dennis and Valerie and others, it's been extraordinary to work with the DPC. I don't say this lightly. I think our team at the Department of Education is stronger than it's ever been. You never know over 7-8 years how those teams go, and you have the B team towards the end. Well, I think we have the A team, and the combination, being able to work with the White House, Sean, Sylvia, and so many folks are here, Anthony, with the team in place. I'm just extraordinarily hopeful and confident about what they can do together. Emma and Ted and the rest of the crew said a little bit about John, and for folks to know, for all of us, this work is very, very personal. For the president, it's very personal. For me, it's very personal. John was one of those kids that probably shouldn't be in a room like this if you sort of look at the stereotypes. And not the easiest time growing up. He'll tell you more about it, but lost both his parents at a pretty early age. Went to live with his brother. That wasn't very easy either. But he had an amazing teacher who saw something in him and kept him going. And today he gets to stand here with the president. And so many times, I think we in society write off kids that look like John and come from places like John. And to see what he can accomplish, I think that's what drives all of us. We know there's so many other kids out there we can reach. And while I'm deeply, deeply sad to be leaving, I'm extraordinarily happy and thankful and proud that John's going to carry on this work with the team. So I want to thank everybody for their hard work. I quickly want to try to get emotional here, but thank my parents as well. My dad is a lifelong educator at the University of Chicago. Taught there all his life. My mother started an inner-city tutoring program before we were born and raised all of us as a part of that program. And that changed our lives. And all our life, we saw what kids could do when they were given a chance. And that's why we do this work today. And to be able to see what she did at one little corner at 46 in Greenwood, and to now have a chance over the past 6.5 years to try and have an impact around the nation, because this man gave us a chance. For family, I can't tell you how much it means to us. And then finally, just to my family. And I love this work. I love this team. I love the president. I love the chance to serve. The only thing I love more is you guys. And I can't wait to come home and see a couple more track meets and maybe get to coach Ryan a little bit and maybe have a few more dinners and maybe go to a movie someday. That'd be pretty amazing. So it's been too long, and so it's been an amazing journey, and I feel so proud to be so lucky to have been a part of this team. And Mr. President, thanks for creating the climate in which all of us here could have the impact we did, and we can never repay the debt of gratitude we owe you for your leadership and your courage. So thank you so much. I want to turn it over to John.
thank you, Arne, for very kind words. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to serve and for the faith that you've placed in me and the team that we have at the department. I'm deeply honored by the chance to serve and also deeply humbled by following in Arne's footsteps. Arne is an extraordinary leader who I have watched demonstrate tremendous courage in fighting for kids and fighting for what's best for kids. But also always being willing to listen to folks and to make adjustments and to make sure that everything we do every day is towards the goal of greater equity. Mr. President, you and Arne and our team at the department have laid out an ambitious agenda from strengthening early childhood education and expanding access to early childhood to raising standards for teaching and learning in K through 12 to ensuring that more Americans have access to high quality higher education, to ensuring that we support our teachers and that we invest in our teachers and provide the best preparation and support and leadership opportunities for them. It's an incredible agenda, and I'm proud to be able to carry it forward with the amazing team that we have at the department. Earlier this week, Arne gave a speech at the National Press Club, and in that speech, Arne said, education can be the difference between life and death. And I know that's true because it was for me. I grew up in Brooklyn. I lost my mom when I was 8, my dad when I was 12. My dad was very sick before he passed. I moved around between family members and schools. But teachers, New York City public school teachers, are the reason that I am alive. They are the reason that I became a teacher. They are the reason I'm standing here today. Those teachers created amazing educational experiences, but also gave me hope about what is possible, what could be possible for me in life. I know schools can't do it alone. There's work we have to do on economic development and housing and healthcare, but I know that my parents, who spent their lives as New York City public school educators, believe that school was at the heart of our promise of equality of opportunity for all Americans. That's what they believe, that's what the president believes, that's what Arne believes, and that's what I feel very privileged to be able to work on with this amazing team we have at the department. Every child in the United States, every college student, every disconnected youth, every working parent who just wants a few more credits in order to improve their salary and position at their job, everyone deserves the kind of opportunity that I had to have a great education. Every child deserves the kind of opportunity that my beautiful daughters, Amina and Maria, have to have a great education, the kind of education their grandparents worked to provide. I'm so grateful to my very supportive wife, Melissa. So grateful to the secretary for the opportunity he gave me to join his team, and incredibly grateful to the president for the opportunity to work with a wonderful group of people at the education department to try to expand opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Two good men doing really important work. So I'm lucky to have them both as colleagues and as friends, and I'm looking forward to seeing even more work done in the next few months. We've got some other business to attend to. So all of you who were here to celebrate Arne and John, you're lucky enough now to have to sit through a little bit of a press conference with me. So make yourselves comfortable. I warned the kids ahead of time. I said, try not to look completely bored. I'm going to take a couple of questions from the press, but first, a few additional pieces of business. First of all, we learned today that our business has created another 118,000 new jobs in September, which means that we now have had 67 straight months of job creation, 13.2 million new jobs in all, and an unemployment rate that has fallen from a high of 10% down to 5.1%. These long-term trends are obviously good news, particularly for every American waking up each morning and heading off to a new job. But we would be doing even better if we didn't have to keep on dealing with unnecessary crises in Congress every few months. And this is especially important right now because although the American economy has been chugging along at a steady pace, much of the global economy is softening. We've seen an impact on our exports, which was a major driver of growth for us, particularly at the beginning of the recovery. And so our own growth could slow if Congress does not do away with some of the counterproductive austerity measures that they have put in place, and if Congress does not avoid the kind of manufactured crises that shatter consumer confidence and could disrupt an already skittish global economy. On Wednesday, more than half of Republicans voted to shut down the government for the second time in 2 years. Now, the good news is there were enough votes in both parties to pass a last-minute bill to keep the government open and operating for another 10 weeks before we can get a more long-term solution. But keep in mind, that gimmick only sets up another potential manufactured crisis just 2 weeks before Christmas. And I've said this before, I want to repeat it. This is not the way the United States should be operating. Oftentimes I hear from folks up on Capitol Hill the need for American leadership. The need for America to be number one. Well, you know what? Around the globe, part of what makes us a leader is when we govern effectively and we keep our own house in order and we pass budgets and we can engage in long-term planning and we can invest in the things that are important for the future. That's U.S. leadership. When we fail to do that, we diminish U.S. leadership. It's not how we are supposed to operate. And we can't just keep on kicking down the road without solving any problems or doing any long-term planning for the future. That's true for our military. That's true for our domestic programs. The American people, American families deserve better. And we can grow faster and the economy can improve if Congress acts with dispatch. It will get worse if they don't. That's why I want to be very clear. I will not sign another short-sighted spending bill like the one Congress sent me this week. We purchased ourselves 10 additional weeks. We need to use them effectively. Keep in mind that a few years ago, both parties put in place harmful automatic cuts that make no distinction between spending we don't need and spending we do. We can revisit the history of how that happened. I have some rather grim memories of it. But the notion was that even as we were bringing down the deficit, we would come up with a smart, long-term approach to investing in the things that we need. That didn't happen. And so now these cuts that have been maintained have been keeping our economy from growing faster. It's time to undo them. If we don't, then we will have to fund our economic and national security priorities in 2016 at the same levels that we did in 2006. Now understand, during that decade, between 2006 and 2016, our economy has grown by 12%. Our population has grown by 8%. New threats have emerged. New opportunities have appeared. We can't fund our country the way we did 10 years ago because we have greater demands with an aging population, with kids who need schools, with roads that need to be fixed, with a military on which we are placing extraordinary demands. And we can't cut our way to prosperity. Other countries have tried it, and it has not worked. We've grown faster than they have because we did not pursue these blind, unthinking cuts to necessary investments for our growth. And by the way, because we've grown faster than them, we've brought our deficits down faster than they have. I want to repeat this because the public apparently never believes it. Since I took office, we've cut our deficits by 2/3. The deficit has not been going up, it has been coming down precipitously. We've cut our deficits by 2/3. They're below the average deficits over the past 40 years. So the bottom line is Congress has to do its job. It can't flirt with another shutdown. It should pass a serious budget. And if they do, and get rid of some of these mindless cuts, even as we're still prudent about maintaining the spending that we need, but not spending we don't need and it's not working, their own nonpartisan budget office estimates we're going to add an extra 500,000 jobs to our economy next year alone. We can immediately put 500,000 more people back to work if we just have a more sensible budget. And in these negotiations, nobody's going to get everything they want. We have to work together, though, even if we disagree, in order to do the people's business. At some point, we have to want to govern and not just play politics or play to various political bases. At some point, we need to pass bills so that we can rebuild our roads and keep our kids learning and keep our military strong and help people prepare for and recover from disasters. That is Congress's most basic job. That's what our government is supposed to do, serve the American people. So, with that, let me take some questions, and I'll start with Julie Pace of AP. Hang in there, kids.
It'll be over soon. Thank you, Mr. President. There have been several developments in Syria that I wanted to ask you about, starting with Russia's involvement. You met with President Putin earlier this week, and I wonder if you think he was honest with you about his intentions in Syria. If Russia is targeting groups beyond the Islamic State, including U.S.-aligned groups, does the U.S. military have an obligation to protect them? And on the situation in Syria more broadly, there have obviously been failures in the U.S. Train and Equip program. Do you believe that that program can be fixed, or do you have to look at other options? Would you in particular be willing to reconsider a no-fly zone, which several presidential candidates, including your former Secretary of State, are now calling for?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, let's understand what's happening in Syria and how we got here. What started off as peaceful protests against Assad, the president, evolved into a civil war because Assad met those protests with unimaginable brutality. And so this is not a conflict between the United States and any party in Syria. This is a conflict between the Syrian people and a brutal, ruthless dictator. Point number two is that the reason Assad is still in power is because Russia and Iran have supported him.